Well, hello, Clarice. Or should I say, listeners. Welcome to the Halloween episode of Based on a Book, where things get a little unsettling. Trick or treat? I think we all know the answer. Let's get spooky. I'm Lindsey, the podcast's honorary murder queen, and orderly for today's episode.
I'm Crystal. I'm just really glad that Spooky Month is almost over.
And I'm Keri, the clueless detective.
Tonight, we are diving into the dark and twisted world of the 1988 psychological horror crime thriller that is The Silence of the Lambs, written by Thomas Harris, and the 1991 film adaptation starring Jodie Foster and Sir Anthony Hopkins. So grab your fava beans and a nice Chianti, because we're about to dissect the story that made Hannibal Lecter an icon of terror. So, for those of you who do not know the story of The Silence of the Lambs, the book is about FBI trainee Clary Starling, who is tasked with hunting down a serial killer known as Buffalo Bill. And to help her, she must interview Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a cannibalistic psychopath who is imprisoned in a mental institution. So let's start with reading formats, ratings, and mini non-spoiler reviews. I guess I'll go first with mine. For reading format, I read this one on my Kindle. I had actually never read the book before, even though I've seen the movie many times. Crystal, how did you read?
I read a physical copy. I also have seen the movie many times, and I read the book in the past. But it's been a solid 10 years probably since I saw the movie or read the book.
Yeah, I read it on my Kindle. I have never seen the movie, never read the book. I actually have never even seen images from the movie. I've actually only heard of Hannibal Lecter a couple of times, never knew the origin story
Oh,
of
wow.
Hannibal Lecter, never knew literally anything about him. And actually, I was kind of shocked whenever we first picked this book originally that this was the origin story of Hannibal Lecter.
But it's
So
not.
yeah, it's not the origin story, but that this was the origin
Right.
series.
Yes.
That's what I mean, of Hannibal Lecter. So I was a complete newbie to this entire story. And honestly, I feel like my rating was kind of affected. I think I did this series in general and this book a disservice by starting with this first and not starting with the first book. So, because of that, going back to our last episode, I'm giving it 3 heebie-jeebies out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, I never read the first book. I did watch all of the movies in the series, including, Red Dragon and whatnot. I did also watch the Hannibal Lecter TV series, which is the series with Mad Mikkelsen, and it has the Will character in it. So I felt like I maybe knew a little bit more what was going on.
Yeah.
Especially since the last time I had watched The Silence of the Lambs.
Mhm.
But going back and watching the movie again, it brought on more nostalgia. It's like scary movies to tell in the dark.
Mhm.
So for my rating, I went with 4 death head moths and a pupa. So it's like 4.5.
Oh, I like that.
So I read Red Dragon as the first book. I didn't realize it was the Hannibal Lecter book when I picked it up. It was the first true horror / suspense psychological thriller I had ever read, and I was probably 14 or 15. And it scared the bejesus out of me when I read that.
Gave you the
It
heebie-jeebies.
gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I was absolutely hooked. I will say after this reread of Silence of the Lambs, I am still hooked. I give this 5 cadaver handprints.
I just got goosebumps.
I of course, I don't do scary as a general rule, but this is, like, to me, the epitome of the right kind of scary, of the right kind of goosies, that, like,
Mhm.
the bumps in the night, but I know that none of that is like, if you like, this book has clear rules that you have to follow to stay safe, right? You don't go out alone, you make sure that you're not taunting serial killers on purpose, like,
Always
and
check your
those
corners.
always check your corners, exactly. There's clear rules that are in reality that you can put in place, and that's the kind of scary I love. This is like it just it yeah, this is my first 5 in a long time. I would have rated it a 5 on my first read through had we been doing this forever ago, and I that didn't change at all. I was ready for it to change with fresh eyes, and no, it's still that good.
That's so exciting. So
Yay. I love that. I'm so happy that,
You
it was
found
a
my scary
five-star.
that I
I
like.
know.
yay.
I think I realized for myself that I think this is just, like, a personal preference, which is really weird because I love, like, a true crime podcast, but reading it, like, from a detective point of view, I realized it's, like, kinda not my favorite subgenre in, like, a
Mhm,
thriller or something, so I think that's kind of why I didn't love it. Also, like, I feel like I was missing like I said, the origin story of Hannibal Lecter. I feel like I was kinda missing the background of Hannibal Lecter a little bit, like, I was just, like,
mhm.
missing a little something. Not that I felt lost, but if you're somebody that it wants to go into the series, I definitely recommend starting with the first book in general.
They do mention the character Will quite a few times,
Yeah.
Right.
and he's a character in the series, the Hannibal Lecter series, and he's in the first book. Obviously, you find out what happens to him in that. So yeah, I mean, it's probably beneficial to go back and read the first book.
Yeah, I feel like you'll get more, like, depth a little to the entire series as a whole. But, yeah, I think it's just, like, the detective stuff, like, wasn't my favorite. But, I mean, I can appreciate it for what it is, and,
See
like, I appreciate people liking it for what it is, 'cause it was, like, a good book, overall.
and that's the part that I love was the detective part, that, like, having
Yeah.
to puzzle it together, having
Yep.
to pick apart the pieces and, like, try to catch a clue for a clue because we get so
Mhm.
much information throughout the whole book that you don't necessarily realize are clues right away. And that I loved that, like, looking for that clue as Clarice is trying to, like, pick apart what Hannibal says or pick apart what she's found. Like, I loved doing that with her. That was the exciting part for me, and there were a couple of times when I caught a clue, and thought to myself, it's right there, like, I can't believe you can't see this yet, like, I know you can figure it out," like, and I was, like, that frustrated, I guess, kind of similar to that, like, "Don't open that door" kind of thing. But, like, it was very exciting to just kind of feel like I was a part of the investigative team too.
Yeah.
There was a specific scene that I really felt that. So before we get into it, we've got a lot to cover. Just gonna go ahead and throw out some
Yeah.
full spoilers. We're gonna break down the book, break down the movie. We're gonna talk about it all. So if you haven't watched the movie, if you haven't read the book, pause, go do that, and come back and join the discussion. So welcome back. Hello.
Welcome back. We're here.
Let's start with some content warning because there's a lot of content warning in this one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So the story contains violence, gore, psychological manipulation, trauma, SA, misogyny, mental illness, body horror, transphobia, and cannibalism.
I think that covers it.
Yep.
Hopefully I didn't miss any, but there's a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and insects if you don't like bugs.
Yeah, if you don't like bugs, there are bugs.
Yep.
So Clary Starling is a young FBI trainee, and she is asked to carry out an errand by Jack Crawford, the head of the FBI division that draws up psychological profiles of serial killers. So Starling is to present a questionnaire to the forensic psychiatrist and cannibalistic serial killer Hannibal Lecter.
Who's also a graduate from UVA, which was really freaking me out because
Yep.
that is local to me.
Yep.
I remember I was texting everyone like, "Excuse me, this is literally local to Virginia. Nobody told warned me
And
about this one."
this is what I love specifically. One of the things that I love about this book as a whole is they talk about so many specific places
Mhm.
Yeah,
across basically all of the eastern United States, right?
Mhm.
And I think that helps to sink the reader further into this, make it feel a little bit more real, a little bit more
totally.
relatable because like these are places you might have been or seen or know about. And like even like I've been to a handful of the places that are mentioned in the book. It's not just, Virginia and DC because she's an FBI. Like they're in Ohio, they're in Indiana. At one point they're in West Virginia. They mentioned I think Mississippi,
They're in
no, Georgia,
Tennessee.
because yeah, Tennessee and like they've so it's like all of the Eastern US, very specific locations that they talk about that are real, that are tangible. And so
Yeah,
like that adds that layer of like creep, like it was in my backyard. It
yeah.
was right there.
It was written so well that I mean, this is probably very silly, but as someone who had no idea, like any idea about this entire story, I no idea about the background, nothing. I know nothing about the story. It was written so well. I actually went and researched it because I was scared that it was like based on true events or something. It
Because
was
you really
that detailed
it
because it
was
was like freaking me out.
it was so detailed. It was really intense.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
a
I'm
very well written
sorry.
story. Yeah.
But this is also the point where I feel like the movie kind of deviates, like, already from the book, because in the book, Clarice is chosen to go do this survey with Hannibal Lecter, specifically because she has a psych background.
Mhm.
She's studied and done really, really well.
Mhm.
Like, she's, like, top of her class
She
in
like
these
worked at like
areas.
a mental treatment center or something
Right.
before.
But in the movie, we don't know that. She just seems to be picked out of thin air. "Hey, go do this errand for me."
Mhm.
You
But just
know?
because she's, like, top not top of her
Top
class, but, like,
Right,
top quarter of her class or
right,
something.
Yeah.
but, like, no specific area or anything is mentioned or the fact that she, is really passionate about this or anything. Like, I think at one point he does say, like, "You wanna be in my, behavioral science division, right?" And she was like, "Yes." But other than that, it's just like,
Yeah.
"Go do this thing for me." Whereas in the book, they go into a lot of detail about, like, why she's the right one to do this.
Yeah.
Well, she also had experience fingerprinting bodies that had been in water,
Right,
Yeah.
which
right.
comes in handy later.
Right, and in the movie, they don't really mention that that's
Yeah.
why she's chosen for that specific thing
Yeah.
either,
There's
you
a lot
know?
of deep characterization in this like beginning part of the book. Like you
Right,
really get to know who Clarice is
Mhm.
in this beginning
exactly.
and Crawford as well.
Mhm. And then Lecter is serving 9 consecutive life sentences in a Maryland mental institution for a series of murders. So, like we said, Crawford's real intention is to try to solicit Lecter's assistance in the hunt for a serial killer dubbed Buffalo Bill, whose MO involves kidnapping large women, starving them for up to 2 weeks, and killing and skinning them, and then dumping their remains in nearby rivers. At this point, I think there are 3 victims?
5.
Well, in the very
4,
beginning.
Yeah.
4,
There's
4
4.
victims.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is also, like, a bit of a departure from the book too, because in the book, they have 2 weeks, but in up to 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and in the movie, they're like, he within 3 days. Like, he'll snatch somebody, and within 3 days, he's
Just immediately 3 days, whereas in the book, it is a progression. It
right.
initially 2 weeks, and then by the time they find their 3rd or 4th victim, they
He's starting to
realize
speed up.
that he is speeding up and he's killing them quicker.
Mm.
And then you get into the joke as to why he's called Buffalo Bill. So the
Yeah.
nickname was started by Kansas City Homicide as a sick joke that he likes to skin his humps. I don't It wasn't very
Mhm.
funny.
No.
Mm-mm.
So,
It was like, "Okay. Ew.
Yep.
Move on."
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Not
Leave it to the press though to like pick one thing and run with it. So I feel like that was like again another one of those moments that's kind of super realistic in the book that like the press just runs with stuff whether it's true or not or
well, this
applicable or
wasn't the
not or
press. This was
well
when
right they had said that in the homicide but then the press got a hold of it and
well,
like
yeah.
threw it out there and everybody else started saying it too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So although initially dismissive of Starling's questions, Lecter is offended when another inmate flings his semen at Starling. Gross.
Yeah.
You got something about Migs?
I, I
That
mean no
part
but like I feel like I feel like that was so graphic in the movie too
I
like
know. Okay, so I didn't know. I literally was thinking, I'm like, are they gonna put this in the movie? Because when you read this stuff in like books, and it's like so graphic in the book, and
mhm,
I'm like, and then you get to the movie, and you're like, are they gonna like, what are they gonna keep in this movie, and like, what are they gonna leave out?
right.
Because sometimes, some things are like extremely graphic, and the things that they kept in this movie
Mhm.
were
Yeah,
wild.
Most of the things. They kept most
Most
of
of
the
the things.
things.
I
most of
mean,
the things you would think they would cut out.
yeah. I mean, even like up to like the entire first interview with Clarice and Lecter, a lot of this almost exact quotes
Mhm.
were kept in.
Even Migs, even what he says to her as she's
Yeah,
walking
as
down
she's
the
walking
corridor.
by,
Yeah.
original.
About the only real difference to me was that immediately after Miggs does that, like because in the book, it was very much like Hannibal Lecter is like, "Come back,"
Mhm.
Mhm.
and like he apologized, but in the movie, he's like, "Come back!" He's screaming,
So
which
dramatic.
is so
Yeah.
not Hannibal Lecter to me. Like he's a
Yeah,
very
no, I
like
didn't get
even
that.
keeled guy, so the fact that he like lost it in that moment just seemed like
Why?
right, because we see a lot of other wild, crazy shit happen where he doesn't lose it.
Right.
So
Heart
for
rate
him
85 the whole time.
right, so for him to have lost it over that, don't get
Yeah,
me wrong, I understand him being upset and mad, but when he's upset and mad, like, he's known for being this, like, calm, cool, collected
yeah.
even when he's in extreme emotion, you know?
Yeah, they warn her before she goes in there, like, because, I think his name is Doctor Chilton or
Yep.
something.
Yep.
He warns her before she even goes in to talk to Lecter and says like, gives her all these things that she has to do, like how she gives him, like, the questionnaire and everything, and you can't get too close to the cell and things like that, and he tells her that last time someone got too close and why he has to have, like, a mask on
Mhm.
sometimes
Mhm.
because he, like, bit someone's tongue out or something in
He
the
bit
Mhm,
book.
the nurse's face off.
Yeah.
mhm, and ate her tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ate her tongue, and the whole time, his heart rate never went over, like, 85.
Yep.
But then in the movie, when this whole incident happened, he's, like, screaming at the top of his
It's,
lungs.
like, pressed against the glass,
Yeah, to get her to come back after that happens, and I was like, "I know his heart rate is over 85, like, what is going
Right.
on?"
which also, shout out to Barney.
Shout out
Yeah,
to Barney, the
I
true
yeah,
hero of the whole book, the
yeah,
Yeah.
whole movie. Shout out to Barney.
Yeah. Barney is an orderly who helps to kind of watch after Lecter, and he's a good guy. He actually, like, seems to even though he's psycho, he cares about Lecter
Right,
and his
and
well-being.
mhm,
offers courtesy,
Mhm.
like, even though
He's a
he has
human being, he still,
right,
deserves common courtesy.
exactly, and even though he goes through all of the, like, the security that has to be done by, like, restraining him and masking him and whatever, like, he does it in a way that's courteous and thoughtful and considerate,
Right.
and that like, honestly, shout out to anybody who works in any sort of detention facility because I know that that's gotta be a hard thing to do to keep your humanity like that, but, like,
mhm,
yeah, Barney's the real MVP here.
yeah. Also, I wanna note a difference. I don't know, I didn't notice this in the movie, but I'm pretty sure in the book, Doesn't he have, like, on one of his hands, he has, like,
Six
Lecter?
fingers.
He has 6
6 fingers,
fingers.
yep.
Mhm.
In the movie,
No.
he does not. That's
Mm-mm.
not the case.
Not that I counted. I really
Yeah,
forgot to pay attention until toward the end, when he's in Tennessee,
yeah.
Yeah.
and I was, like, trying to count really quick, and I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure he only has 5 on each hand.
You're, like, trying to look down, you're like, "Let me show me your hands."
Hold on, let me pause this. Hold on, let me count."
I feel like that probably would have been hard to do without it just looking really kinda weird. You know
Mhm.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Especially in 1991.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Just leave this out. This is
But,
unnecessary."
like, can we take a moment, though? Anthony Hopkins?
Ugh,
Yeah.
I love Anthony Hopkins.
Like, I was like, that like, and I've seen him in a bajillion other things where he is, like, the handsome, cool guy, and I can totally believe that he's the handsome, cool guy, but for this movie, he is the scariest man alive.
Did
Yeah.
you know that he was dating Martha Stewart while he was making this movie?
No!
What?
And they broke up because she couldn't see him as anything but Hannibal Lecter.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Yeah.
Martha Stewart, call him.
Tea. That's tea.
Apologize.
He's
Like,
probably married now.
probably,
Too
whatever.
late.
Oh my gosh.
Martha
I mean,
Stewart.
honestly, like, I think about that when I see, like, people play these really terrible villains, like, I don't know if either of you have seen Outlander.
Yep.
There's, like, a really terrible villain in Outlander. I don't know if either of
Mhm.
you know who I'm thinking of, and I cannot see that man as any other person or being as other
Mhm.
than that villain.
Mhm.
So, like, I can't even, like, when he's, like, smiling outside, like, in his real life, I'm like, "Ew, disgusting person."
Honestly, it's the Dolores
And
Umbridge
that's horrible,
syndrome.
that's horrible.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, you
Yeah.
get that one villain that everyone hates, that everyone is terrified of, and then they're typecast for the rest of forever,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, really.
But no,
Oh my
he
god.
pulled off this role in a way that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
It like, yeah, it left me like, "Ooh, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
probably
had,
have
like,
nightmares
chills.
tonight." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
It
studied serial killers and murderers and actually went and sat in on trials for people who committed these types of crimes to kind
wow.
of, yeah, channel his inner Lecter, so
yeah, you can tell
yeah.
because coulda fooled me that he wasn't
Yeah.
right along with
You
them.
like, there's certain actors and actresses that, like, no matter what they are, who they are on screen, like, to me, Tom Cruise is just Tom Cruise, like, I never really fully fall into the character because
Not
it's
Tom
always
Cruise again.
I know, but, like,
He's
since
back.
we've already done that, I might as well bring him up. But, there are other, like, actors and actresses, like, I almost never even remember their names sometimes because I just they are this character or that character, like, they're so good at what they do, and yeah,
Yeah,
I just
you did a great job,
he did a great job.
for
Mhm.
sure.
So, as an apology for Miggs throwing his semen at Starling, Lecter predicts that Buffalo Bill's next victim will be scalped and tells her to locate a car owned by Benjamin Raspel, who was a former patient of Lecter's, who
Mhm.
he eventually murdered. And that's also where it kind of deviates a little from the movie and the book.
Yeah, I was
And
about to mention
I
that,
kind of
yeah.
understand why though,
I
like,
agree. I was about to say that too.
the Klaus character that's in the book but not in the movie, he didn't add a ton to the book. Him
Yeah.
not being there wouldn't have changed the story at all, so I feel like it didn't change the story in the
Yeah,
movie.
I feel like if they had put that additional character in the movie, it probably would have been too much, like,
Yeah,
too many, like, names, too many characters that may have not been as significant to the overall plot.
right.
So, I understand why they just took that one out.
Yeah, the general theme stayed the same,
Exactly, yeah.
because this is Buffalo Bill's first kill is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So it really didn't change anything with it being a different person.
Yeah, because in the movie, it's replaced. I forget what the name that he says in the movie.
It's Mofat, Mofat.
Yeah, Moffat or something.
Yeah, I can't
Moffat.
remember.
Hester Moffat or
Yes,
something.
yes, which
Yeah.
is what is it? An anagram?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it's an anagram to help her locate a storage facility.
Yeah.
So in this storage unit, which is the same between the book and the movie, they go to the storage unit. She discovers a severed head preserved in a jar. This is in the book, this is Klaus. In the movie, this is Ruspel.
Yeah.
Right.
And then throughout the investigation, Starling periodically returns to Lecter in search of information, and the two form a strange relationship.
Yeah.
Lots of people think they're like a thing. They're dating.
Which
Yeah.
is just dumb, but
It's so
okay.
stupid. Yeah.
Like, once again, a woman can't advance in her career without doing a little extra on the side.
Which I will say is a theme in the book, but a small theme. We actually see a lot, like, they kinda highlight the congresswoman from Tennessee,
Hmm.
they highlight I think there was one other one at the I can't remember if it was at the Smithsonian or the FBI that, like, she would have to, like, get clearance from or something. And so, like, they don't necessarily she doesn't they don't come out and say it at any point that, like, women can't get ahead, but in specifically in Clarice's role, she definitely feels the sexism, and
Mhm.
she definitely has to, like, kind of point it out now and then.
Well, you even see it when she gets in the elevator at the training facility in Quantico.
Right.
She's the only female in the elevator, and it's all
Yep.
men, so much taller than her.
Well, in
Um,
Yeah.
real life, Jodie Foster, I had to look this up, is 5'3", because at first I was like, did
I'm
they
5'3".
Yeah.
at first I was like, did they purposely put giants in the elevator with her? Because, most people in Hollywood tend to be on the taller side. So I was like,
Unless you're Tom Cruise.
unless Tom Cruise or Jodie Foster, apparently, because I kind of in my head had it that Jodie Foster was like 5'7", 5'8", and like they must have purposely hired all these like 6'9" basketball players to get in the elevator with her. But no, she's just short. I kind
I
of
am
liked
Jodie
that.
Foster.
There
I was
you go.
immediately thinking of the main guy in Peaky Blinders. He's like, isn't he like super short too?
Is he really?
Yeah, like I think they make people stand next to him to make him seem like taller.
Is
Like
that
his other
Cillian
character.
Murphy? Is that his name?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty sure
Is
he's
he
really
really?
short. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's
That
super
kind of breaks
short.
my heart.
I'm gonna have to look that up after this because I thought he was really tall.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's short.
I
It's
don't
like
know. I'm
Tom Cruise
googling
has
it
to
right now.
stand
You
on a
guys go
box
ahead.
all the time, so
Man,
Can you
we
imagine
all thought
all of War of the Worlds, he's just running on stilts right along with the Martians the entire time?
he's okay. Cillian Murphy or Killian Murphy, however it's pronounced, he's 5'9", so he's not that short.
Okay, yeah, that's not
okay,
that bad. That's
okay.
But yeah,
that's
but
How
not
like
too bad.
honestly though, like in Hollywood and in movies and stuff, people tend to be taller. So
how tall
like
is Tom Cruise?
Yeah, we need the
I'm just
details on
officially the
this.
height police now.
I need reference.
Yeah, we do. This is getting off the rails.
I even promised you I was
Happy
he's 5 foot
Halloween.
7. Tom Cruise is
That's
five
just
seven.
just me.
That's
That's
yeah,
You're
it's
I'm
still
a
size
Tom
plan, so
Cruise. You're Tom Cruise. I'm Jodie Foster. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, moving
All
on.
right, back to the
Okay.
story.
So Starling and Lecter, they have a strange relationship. He offers her these cryptic clues, and she offers him troubled stories of her childhood when she was orphaned. So,
After she was told, by the way, not to give up personal information of herself.
Yeah, I was like, "Why aren't you following the rules? Like, you're really upsetting me that you're not following the
But
rules."
I will say she was giving away stuff that she, like, how would he possibly use this against me? Like, I think it's one of those things that, like, you don't want him to know where you live. You don't want him to know who your sister's name or you know what I mean? Because like, he could potentially use that against you. But, like, this is all stuff from her past. There is no one connected anymore because she was an orphan.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, her parents are gone. They've passed away. So one of the
there is some
stories is
sort of
the passing of her
reference.
father. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is some sort of reference in the books about her having other siblings.
Yes, she was the oldest
But
of.
then we never hear any more about them. So
Yeah, I don't know
I
why
just
she was sent away. The younger siblings.
I mean, I'm assuming maybe they were and they were just kind of separated because that happened
Mm,
a lot in the
Yeah.
like 70s and 80s. So
well, the mom was still alive. It
right
was just the dad who was killed
in the book, yeah.
in the book. Yes.
But then her mom does die later on. So
Yes.
that's why I think she felt kind of comfortable giving up that information is because like mom's gone, dad's gone.
Yeah.
You know, what is he going to do if
So
I
she
tell him
goes
stories from my
and
childhood?
she lives with, is it her
Her mom's
mother's?
cousin.
Yes, mother's cousin.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we get, like, the origin story
Yes, she
of
lived on
what
a sheep and horse farm
yeah, of
in
what the
Montana.
Silence of the Lambs, like.
Well, we get that a little later on.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if that was this part.
Yeah, this is just the part where she talks about living on the farm in Montana.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
she doesn't give a lot of details.
Yeah,
They
she's
start
like, "No, I ran away one time." And then, you know, and he was just like,
then they
"Why'd you
stop
run
the
away?"
story,
Right.
because
And
he
then she
wants to
was
know what
like,
happens to the horse.
right. And she's
Oh,
like, "Quid
yeah.
pro quo, dude.
Yeah,
Like, I
lot
answered
of
your
quid pro quo.
questions." Yeah. They say that so many times in the movie. It
Yeah,
like it that could have been a drinking game.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
We'd all be
That
done for.
I wouldn't have made it. Like I'm a lightweight, man. Nope, that wouldn't have worked. But they say quid pro quo at least like 7 times within 30 seconds, I swear. Like just boom, boom,
Back and
boom,
forth.
boom.
Yeah,
And then at one point they stop quitting or proing or something,
quid pro quoing.
right? And so the story kind of ends and we don't find out anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is kind of where Dr. Chilton comes more into the story. He's the asylum's administrator, and technically you could say he's Lecter's nemesis.
He's a
Um,
jerk.
I
Yeah.
don't like him.
He's kind of an asshole.
He makes sexual advances at Starling,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and he tries to put himself into the investigation. He's trying to be bigger than what he is.
Pretty
Which,
Yep.
much.
spoiler alert, he doesn't even have a doctor's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he's just a dude. He's just an administrator. And don't get me wrong. I know people who are administrators. I don't mean just, but that's he's trying to be bigger than that. And like,
He
come
has
on,
no
dude.
doctorate. He's not a doctor.
Like,
He
just
just
sit back and be proud of the work that you've done. This is a hard job. Why do you
yeah
have to take more than what you do?
yeah.
Mhm.
Jerk.
Yeah.
So at this point, Buffalo Bill's sixth victim is found in West Virginia, and Starling helps Crawford perform the autopsy. So this is
Mhm.
when her fingerprinting and observation of bodies that have been in water for a period of time kind of comes in, which I kind of expected that she would have known what to do with the Vaseline that they handed her. And in
Yeah.
the book, she didn't apply it until she saw everyone else do it, and then she followed.
Yeah, that kind of struck me too. Although in her experience before at Quantico, she it was always on like cadaver subjects that were shipped to them. And so I'm assuming if they were shipped, they were probably preserved
That's true.
and then therefore like not necessarily as disgustingly smelly as a body that'd been floating around in water for a week or so, you know.
That's true. You
And
would
that's the
still
only
expect
thing
them
I
to
could
teach that,
right, you would
but
think.
Yeah.
But again, in the movie, they don't mention she's going along because she is one of the best. Like her instructor said, no, she's the best one for taking wet handprints or wet fingerprints. You know, that's not mentioned in the movie at all, where it's highly like brought up in the book and emphasized in the book that she's the best one for this particular job and that's why she's going. In the movie, it's just like, come on, Clarice, let's go for a ride. You know, like you
Yeah.
talked to that guy once and now you're my best friend. You
Mhm.
know, it just seemed like she was picked out of thin air when there's all these other trainees that could have gone, you
Sh
know.
she also seems to get a little emotional.
I was gonna comment on that because I feel that in the book, she like, the way that they made her in the movie, I feel like she was very, like, attached, very emotional when she saw, like, violence or gory things, like, happening,
Mhm.
and in the book, I did not get that impression from her character
No.
Mhm.
In the book,
whatsoever.
she's very stoic, she's very
Yes.
detached, and in fact, that's something that
Yes.
Hannibal seems to, like, catch on to,
Exactly.
and he
And, like
specifically is
yeah.
like, "What's going on? What are you thinking about? What's happening in your head?" Because he
Yeah.
can't figure it out just by looking at her,
Mhm.
you know, and he wants to know, it makes him curious.
Mhm.
But in the movie, within the first 10 minutes of 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, she's crying outside her car after what Miggs did, and, like, that definitely didn't happen in the book, and I think that
Yeah.
Jodie Foster won the Best Actress Oscar for this role, and she did a great job, but it is not the same characters from the book.
No, and she's also kind of a pushover
Mhm.
when she first meets Chilton and he is walking her to meet Lecter and they get to Barney and she stops him and she says, "You know, I think he sees you as kind of his enemy, so maybe I should go in and talk to him myself."
Mhm.
And he
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, you could have told me this in my office." In the movie, she was like, "Oh,
Like a half little flirty line.
yeah, oh, kinda plays it off, "I'm sorry, blah, 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 whatever."
I wouldn't have had the pleasure of your company," or something like
Exactly,
that, like.
exactly, "I wouldn't have had the pleasure of your company." In the book, she's like, "Well, if you had briefed me in your office instead of
Yeah.
rushing
Yeah.
and saying you had some appointment."
Yeah.
She
I didn't like that they changed that because I really liked her in the book and how she was
Mhm.
Mhm,
detached from things because it was different. Like I feel like personally with my experience in like books and movies is I'm used to the character that they showed, like the female character that they showed in the movie.
mhm,
Right.
I'm used to that character. So seeing it portrayed in the book that way with the female character, I really like that. I love that.
I love specifically that this is a man writing a female character, right? And typically, when we see men writing female characters, they have a tendency to be overly emotional. They have a tendency to be really dramatic. They have a tendency
Yep.
to be the big pushover or to fall into those stereotypical feminine roles. But in this book, she is not that.
Yeah.
And she wants to be seen as something other than that. She's actively, like, she doesn't seem to be one of those women who, like, again, we see in books these female characters that we see who aren't quite as feminine, but really want to be or really try to be or wish that everyone would see them as the beautiful woman they are. Like, she's not even trying that. She's like, "Nope,
Yeah.
this is who I am, and it's working to my advantage, and I'm gonna keep trying to get ahead, and I'm gonna keep doing the best that I can do."
Mhm.
And, like, we don't that's so rare in a female character, especially written by a man.
mhm.
And so when they changed that in the movie, it was, to me, it was really disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
really liked her in the book, so I was like, "Ugh." And I think it really stood out the most to me personally during that scene when they're doing like the autopsy
Mhm.
Mhm.
um of the victim that was found in West Virginia.
I
Yeah,
think that's
she seemed
honestly
really
one of the
emotional.
reasons I couldn't do, like, 5 stars because I hated how much they changed her character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't rate the movie 5 stars. The book is straight up 5 in my opinion, but the
Mhm.
movie falls short.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So while Starling is doing this autopsy, she finds a pupa in the throat of the victim, just as Lecter predicted, and she has been scalped. And then they turn her over and they find these triangular patches of skin that have also been taken from her shoulders. And this is also where, which we mentioned before, they find out that Buffalo Bill killed her within 4 days. So
Mhm.
it was a lot faster than the 2 weeks originally. And this is kind of They're predicting that he's going to start killing more victims, and it's going to be quicker.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I
So
mean,
Yeah.
that's a very serial killer pattern though to escalate like that. And that's why another part that I loved about the book is it really did follow a lot of what we know now to be serial killer patterns. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So it was that much more realistic, that much more terrifying.
right.
But this is also the part in the book where I kind of like wanted to beat my head against a wall because to me it was like you guys don't recognize that he's making skin suits. Like that's it's
Yeah.
so obvious to me in that moment that like this is a tailor like or something, you know what I mean? But at one point Clarice kind of like references in the book that like only men have ever worked this case.
Mhm,
It's always been men. Like a woman would have noticed, a woman would have seen these things.
mhm.
And and I kind of like that like cuz even I was like as a woman I'm sitting here like duh, you know? And but like it really would have like the men would have missed this in when the book was written in the 80s, you know, that like yeah, that makes sense that they didn't catch it, I guess, but man, that pissed me off. I was like, "Come on, guys, get it together." Like, the FBI for God's sake. Like,
Yeah. True.
So Starling takes the pupa to the Smithsonian.
This is my favorite this is honestly one of my favorite parts
it's a good part. It's
of the book. I love this part.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
literally love this
I was
part.
gonna ask if you meant the book or the movie because
Oh, no, no, no. I love this part in the book because the fact like, the whole process like, the whole thought process
Mhm,
of doing this and, like, taking this, like, bug that was in that they found in the girl's throat, and the idea in, like, your head to think, "Okay, so now we need to go test it because we need to go to, like, experts to go see where this, bug would be, like, originated in because we need to see if somebody had put it there themselves or if it was, like, from being, like, in the water because they found her in water."
mhm,
Mhm,
And, like, then we can also see where it would have been located at because we can see where this bug, like, where it would usually, like, reside at. I was like,
mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I love this. I love, like, the clues, like, coming together. It's coming
Yep.
together right now."
You're a Forensic Files girl, aren't you?
I
Like,
love forensic
I know,
files.
right?
I was
I
like,
think
"Oh, I love this." Like, the way that the clues were being told to me
mhm.
at this part, I was like, "I just love it. Give it to me. Give it to me right
Yep.
now. I love it. I'm eating it up right now." This is
So
the
in the
best
book,
part.
they originally think that it's a black witch moth, which is a species that doesn't naturally occur where the victim is found. But then later, they identify it as a death's head moth, which is an even more exotic species.
That doesn't even occur in this continent.
Yeah,
No. And it has to be raised in captivity from imported eggs. So it's not even out there in the wild.
yeah.
And then they find a similar pupa in Klaus's head, and then
Or
based on
Raspael
or
in the
Raspiel,
Yeah, the
movie.
one in the that head in the
The jar
jar.
head.
yeah,
Yeah, the jar.
Not the Marines, the head in the jar.
The head in the jar.
Like
The floating head in the jar.
yeah, it's found in the storage unit.
Yes, yes.
And then based on this connection, Starling believes that Lecter actually knows Buffalo Bill's identity. He just knows too much.
Yeah.
So
Right.
she asks Crawford, who in the book is caring for his terminally ill wife, Bella. In the movie, he doesn't seem to have a wife.
Mhm. Which
Yeah.
I wanna know something
Okay.
because wait, Crystal, you read the first book, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Is his wife very involved in the first book? Do you know? Or do you remember?
Yes and no. Like, she's not, like, super important to the story,
Yeah.
but it is his relationship with her is important to the story.
Okay.
Like, the
Because
fact that he
I
is a
felt
married man.
yeah, I felt like I was like, "What is the significance of her?" And I was like, "It has to be from the first book." Like, it has to
Yeah,
have carried over from the first book.
I think so. I think mostly it was that he needed to be distracted for there to be a reason for him to have chosen a trainee to help on something, is really what it boils down
I
to.
see, yeah.
Because if he would have been full on working this, he wouldn't have needed any help. But because he was at home as much as he was,
Yeah. Well,
like,
there is a point in the book where he received a note. Well, he questions, Clarice,
Mhm.
where he's like, "Did you tell Lecter about anything about me?"
Mhm.
And she's
right.
like, "No, I didn't tell him anything about you." And he's like, "Okay." And then he unfolds a note from
Mhm.
Lecter that says, "I'm so sorry about Bella."
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was like, was there a connection between Bella, Crawford, and Lecter from, like, the first book?
Basically, it's one of those that, like,
Yeah, that's why I
Hannibal
was
kinda
like,
uses Bella against him.
yeah,
You
that's
know
why
what
I
I
was,
mean?
like,
Yeah.
curious about, because isn't there something in this book where Crawford kinda doesn't want to see doesn't want to see Lecter, like, he
Mm-mm.
doesn't get any there's no success with him seeing Lecter at all,
And I
too.
think it's more of that Crawford recognizes that it would be more of a prize for Hannibal to have
Mhm.
won if
Yeah.
Crawford goes to him,
Yeah.
and Crawford's not gonna let Hannibal win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. True.
Also, can we talk about the fact that Lecter can smell, like, everything?
Everything. I
Ew, I don't like that.
I
I
know
hate that.
a couple of people in my life who have, like, super sniffers, like, that we always joke that they're super sniffers, that can smell things from across the room that you didn't even know existed, you know what I mean? And it to m when, like, I talked to them frankly about it, the one of them was like, "No, it's actually kinda really awful because you have no idea how many horrible smells are out there,
Mhm.
and they might be faint to everyone else, you don't even know it." Like, it made me, like, I don't know, just it freaks me out because my one friend was like, "No, I can, like, tell when somebody's gonna get sick. Like, it's like, I can tell when they're getting a cold. I can tell when someone else has a sinus infection. I can tell when somebody else is, like, on their period. I can tell." They're like, and it's awful because these are, like, deeply personal things that I don't necessarily wanna know about other people, and also I don't wanna smell that. Like,
'Cause Lecter can smell the bandage on the back of her leg underneath
under
her
her
pants.
pants. Yeah.
And then he mentions, and I've read this before, but he mentioned something about being able to smell schizophrenia.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
It's fascinating and disgusting at the same time.
yeah, it's an interesting party trick.
Not a party trick. Because he, like, grabs her, like, ID, like, in the very, very beginning. He grabs her ID and he, like, goes, like, smells it, and he
Yeah.
gives it back, and he's, like, tells her the type of, like, lotion that she's wearing, and I'm like, "Stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Don't do that again."
he
Ew.
says that she normally wears this specific perfume, but she's not wearing it today.
Mhm.
And he explains it's because he can smell it from her bag. The inside of her bag smells like it, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It's just,
like, "Stop.
like, please
I'm
no.
scared. Don't do
Please
that
no.
again." Yeah. Yeah, no.
But yes, Starling asks Crawford why she was sent to Lecter to fish for information on Buffalo Bill, but was told it was just some random questionnaire. Like, why did you use me? Why didn't you tell me? And Crawford claims that if she had an agenda, Lecter would have sensed it and he never would have spoken to her.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't, so reading the book, I didn't realize that with Lecter's inner monologue, I didn't realize he actually knew who Buffalo Bill was. I was just in the movie, I was just like, "Oh my god, he's so smart. He's able to predict everything." I thought he was like literally like a supervillain.
I think it's
Mhm.
a combination though, because, like, he really is smart enough to put a lot of stuff together that other
Mhm.
people wouldn't have. But the fact that he knew who Buffalo Bill was from the very beginning definitely helped.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had some insider information.
Yep.
Right? But, like, he didn't necessarily know where Buffalo Bill would be, you know what I mean? Because he hadn't seen him in years, but somehow he figured that out too, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, he's been watching the news and reading the papers, so he knew as soon as the body started coming up, in a
Right.
specific area
He was like,
and the
"I know
condition
that
of the
guy."
bodies. He's like,
Like
"Oh, no, that's him."
Mhm. Yep.
Because you learn that Buffalo Bill killed Klaus or Rospel, and he actually turned him into an apron in the book.
yeah.
So, it wasn't the first time. His first victim that he cut up wasn't his first victim, it was actually Klaus or Rospel.
And we don't even know if or Raspail was the first. Like, they
Right.
might have been
Yeah.
Well, he killed his
before
grandparents.
them. Well, we
Yeah.
do know that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there might have been someone between there. We just know that Klaus or Raspail, whichever, is, like, the first one that we find out about that he skinned.
Mhm,
The first one that Lecter knows about.
mhm.
Yeah.
So, now we go to Tennessee, where we meet Catherine Baker Martin. She is the daughter of Senator Ruth Martin, and she is kidnapped. And within 6 hours, her blouse is found on the roadside, slit up the back, which is Buffalo Bill's calling card. He traps her, and he go ahead.
Clubs her with a cat, like, tricks her. Like,
Yeah,
he's wearing a cast on his arm and, like, pretending to, like, load some stuff into his truck and, like, he's
Like,
having
he
a hard
can't load it
time
into, like, his truck, like,
because he's
he's
got a
yeah.
broken arm.
mhm,
And
Yeah.
she, being a good Samaritan, is like, "Do you need some help? I can help you." And this is straight out of the Ted Bundy guide for killing people.
absolutely. That
That
he
I
did
like
that, he did that.
exactly that.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Oh, that's our guy. Don't help people who are hurt. They're faking it."
Stranger
Like,
danger.
stranger danger.
Yes.
So if you like lesson to all of our listeners, if you see someone who is clearly injured in some way or disabled in some way asking for help in the dark,
Mhm,
all alone,
mhm.
maybe be like,
In a
"I'll call
van.
someone for
In a
you."
creepy van with no windows.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, go call someone else to
Mhm,
come help. Like,
Yeah. Get
just
a
like
group of people to help.
and I'm not saying don't help. I'm just saying let's help smart,
mm,
okay?
Yeah.
mhm.
And safe.
Yeah,
Like,
do it
I would
smart
rather
and
you be
safe.
rude and alive than kind and kidnapped. Just saying.
Beautiful words of advice.
Yeah. This is advice from Crystal.
There you go.
So, yeah, he tricks her into trying to lift this chair, couch thing to put into the van, clubs her over the head with a cast. She wakes up in a well.
Yep.
And then he
Story of
begins
my
to
life. No.
oh god, I hope not.
Please
No.
no.
No, no.
So then he begins to starve her, and this was normally our 2-week period. It's the starvation. Crawford is advised that even the
Wait,
president.
can I say something funny?
Yes.
I have a funny comment.
Okay.
So at this point in the book, I was like, I was trying to like cosplay as a detective, it, because I don't read detective books like this ever. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure it out.
Detective
Don't
Keri is
worry.
on the case.
Don't worry. Detective Keri is here. So I'm thinking like 3, 4 steps ahead the entire time.
Mm.
And when you do that, you can't see like what's directly in front of you,
True.
right?
Okay.
So at this point in the book, I'm pretty sure that we're in the perspective of Buffalo Bill for a second.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure he is taking care of his dog or something. And he goes to the well and is like throwing food down the well for a second.
Mhm.
And you hear like a little you hear like a please, like she's like please,
Please.
like
Please.
at the bottom of the well, and then it cuts to like going to like Crawford and Clarice and stuff
Mhm.
to the next chapter. I immediately in my head was thinking, oh, this is like a different character in the story, and he doesn't know that the girl has been thrown down in this well at his house. That's literally
Oh.
what I was thinking. I swear on my life. 5 chapters later, I went, "Oh my gosh, that was actually."
If I ever go missing, y'all, please don't leave this up to Carrie to find me.
Keri, I'm so sorry to
That's
say,
why
I think you've
I'm
failed The FBI training.
That's why I'm the clueless detective,
You're gonna get
okay?
recycled. Sorry.
That is the clueless detective in me because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy, he doesn't know that she's down in that well. He didn't hear her say please."
He's just throwing food scraps down there.
Yeah,
Oh
like,
lord.
they
That's like
didn't
his
hear.
compost well.
Yeah, like, it wasn't computing because I was, like, thinking too far ahead, and I was like and then 5 chapters later, I was like, "Oh, no, that was the guy."
We were there. We were
Yeah,
right there
I was
in his
right there with him. Oh my god.
Oh lord.
Okay. I just had to say that really quick because,
That is so
honestly,
funny.
that's what makes me the clueless detective because, that was like a plot twist to me, and it wasn't supposed to be a plot twist.
No.
No, not at
While
all.
while Carrie's over here completely lost, this is the part where I was really mad because, he kidnaps bigger girls,
Uh-huh.
right? And he's like,
Yeah.
"Are you a size 14?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Perfect, best." And I'm over here like, "Oh shit. I'm like an 18. I'm done for. Like, I'm a goner."
I know the second that was, like, the whole concept of, like, why he can I was like, "Oh, no. I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm done
No.
for.
No, if
I'm
a
done."
size 14 is your bigger fat girl, and that's, like, through the whole book, they like, fat, tubbo, like, they're making this sound like big girls. No, size 14. Like,
Yeah.
I
I'm
haven't
done
seen
for.
14 in, like, 10 years. Like, maybe 15 years. It's been a while, okay? Like, I'm just not I'm not that, and that but, like, I wouldn't consider myself, like, tubbo, lard-ass whale, geez, what would they think of me?
I think
So,
the
yeah.
actress who played, Catherine Baker Martin, I think
That's
she
Dr. Han.
I think she put on 25 pounds for that role.
It's
And she
Dr.
was
Han from
so
Grey's
perfect.
Anatomy. I was
She
like, "Dr.
was.
Han, you have patience. Get out of the well.
We
Get
don't
out
have
of the
time for
well.
this. Someone's coding.
Someone's coding right now. Get out of the well."
Oh my god. So at this point, we find out that the president of the United States is interested in this case.
Well, because the congresswoman is that this is the congresswoman's daughter. Did we say that part already?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Senator Ruth
I
Martin.
stuck on Doctor.
I really did promise not to drag this podcast off the rails like I tend to,
It's our
and Carrie
Halloween
agreed,
special.
and yet here we are.
It's fine.
Okay. Okay.
President of
We
the
got
United
this.
States. Intense
Okay.
interest in the case. And they want a
First means the
successful
FBI is like, "All right, buddy, we're on it."
yeah, and they want a successful rescue. Crawford estimates that they have 3 days, so it's an even shorter window than the previous 4, before Buffalo Bill kills Catherine. Starling is sent to Lecter with the offer that if he assists in saving Catherine and capturing Buffalo Bill, that he will be transferred out of the asylum to a facility that allows him a view with privileges 1 week a year to visit a secluded beach and enjoy the outdoors.
Which is something he's been wanting and asking for.
He wants a view.
But also, like, didn't the whole plus a week of a vacation. Like, I don't know about y'all, but instantly, and I don't understand why Hannibal Lecter didn't instantly just be like, "This is a lie." Like, that's the a week. Like, what killer serving 9 consecutive life sentences gets 1 week of vacation every year?
He also gets a job. He also gets to evaluate other cases.
Like, I don't
Mm.
believe it. And he should have in that moment been like, "No, y'all lying." That's
He is skeptic. He doesn't completely fully believe her. He doesn't think the offer is genuine.
but he does give up some info.
But he also doesn't believe that Starling would intentionally lie to him because
Right.
they've got that relationship.
Yeah, they got a connection.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He tells her that Buffalo Bill has come to believe he was a transsexual, despite the self diagnosis consistently being deemed false by doctors. So, this causes him to be rejected for sexual reassignment surgery by multiple hospitals.
Mhm.
This becomes like a big point. This is one of their leads to search.
And this is again where the movie deviates from the book and why the movie is kind of hated in a lot of LGBTQIA plus circles. In the book, they very specifically and repeatedly bring up that transsexual individuals like generally are very they're pacifists. They have a
Mhm.
tendency to be
Yep.
very low aggression. They are like have a lower crime rate compared to the rest of the general population.
Mhm.
And in the book they're like, that is correct, we agree, this guy is not that,
Mhm.
Yep.
he is not a transsexual, he is messed up in the head, and he thinks that he belongs to this group that he does not belong to. But in the movie they mention it like once
Yeah.
and then move on, and we are continued, it's kind of pushed in our face that this guy's a wackadoo because he's a transsexual
Mhm.
rather than he is acting as a transsexual because he's wackadoo. Like it's the other way. In the book, I feel like they do a really good job of separating those two things, and in the movie, they definitely do not.
Well,
Yeah.
they even go over all of his tests that he has to take and
Right.
what his answers are compared to what an actual transsexual person's answers would be,
And
like the genuine answers.
I will say, like, I know that we keep saying transsexual too. That's because that's the terminology used in the book and in the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, obviously, a lot has changed since this book was written, since the movie came out, but trying to kind of keep with the terminology in the book for any listeners who might not know any better or may kind of still be learning from the book.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's very much a I feel like I feel like the movie did our alphabet community friends a disservice in this regard.
Mhm.
I feel like the movie, rather than trying to distance you know, the transgender or the transsexual community from the psycho the way the book did, they kind of smashed them together really hard.
Yeah.
And I like that really just made your ick,
Yeah.
especially
I
watching it
totally
now
agree.
10 years later, like because so much has changed even in the last 10 years. I like, ew, like that was not cool. And but in the book, I feel like for a book written in the 80s, he did a really good job of saying of separating the two really well, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. Like, I totally agree. Like, they kind of dig in the book how that he's definitely not um transsexual, and he does not fall under that title, and that these types of crimes would not fall under that title. And I just felt like, I don't know, like you said, Crystal, like it just gave me, the movie kind of just gave me the ick
Mhm.
a little bit regarding that,
Yeah.
for sure.
So after Starling leaves Lecter, he begins reminiscing on the past and he recalls the therapy session during which he murdered Benjamin Ruspel. This is when he told Lecter about a former lover, James Gum. What a name, James.
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 So after Ruspel left Gum, he began dating a sailor named Klaus, which again, this is not in the movie. Gum began Gum became jealous and murdered Klaus, using his skin to make an apron. This is also when Raspel revealed that Gum had an epiphany after watching a butterfly hatch. So this was his transformation. And again, this hints at all of the pupas that they're finding in the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Lecter's interrupted when Chilton steps in. Turns out there was a listening device that was taped to the desk that she was sitting at, and he recorded Starling's offer and then found out that the offer was a lie. Crawford's deal is not real. And then he offers Lecter his own deal. If Lecter reveals Buffalo Bill's identity, he will get the transfer to another asylum, but only if Chilton gets credit for getting the information from Lecter. And Lecter agrees, but insists that he would be allowed to give the information to Senator Martin in person in Tennessee. Um, Chilton
Because
doesn't know.
Chilton's a jerk.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Chilton doesn't know that Lecter has secretly collected the ingredients for an improvised handcuff lockpick. And Lecter believes that it'll be useful at some point during this trip to Tennessee. This is also kind of different in the book and the movie,
Mm-hmm.
because in the book, I think it's just some random interviewer or doctor or somebody accidentally left the pin.
And like in the book, they kind of referred to it having happened well in the past.
Yes.
And that Hannibal just kind of took advantage of it in the past, thinking he might need this in the future.
Yes. And he was like filing it down at night
Shaping it and bent, yeah, like.
and was like callousing his hands. He's working on it so long. And in the movie, it just kind of happens. So
Yeah.
and it's also Chilton's fault. So
That did make me feel good that
Yeah.
it was like, we're going to blame Chilton for this.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And in
He did that.
Tennessee, Lecter toys with Senator Martin briefly, enjoying the woman's anguish, but eventually gives her some information about Buffalo Bill. Again, it's a little different between the book and the movie. In the book, his name is Billy Rubin, and he suffers from elephant ivory anthrax, which is a knife maker's disease. He also provides an accurate physical description, so he actually does describe Buffalo Bill, Jane
Right.
Gum. But the name is a red herring. Billy Rubin is a pigment in human bile and a
Mhm.
chief coloring agent in human feces.
And see, like, I knew that when I read this book the first time. And when I read the name Billy Rubin, I was like, Billy Rubin? Billy
Ew.
Rubin? Who hasn't figured this out? Like, it's so obvious. But I guess my family's just weird because we talk about like my grandfather was a doctor. So we talk about like weird stuff sometimes in our family. And I guess that's not common knowledge. Yeah.
Also, who describes that as someone's hair color?
I know,
They say
right?
that's Chilton's hair color.
I guess because they didn't have anything nicer to say about him.
Yep.
Is that their nice way of
True.
calling him a shithead?
Pretty much.
Oh my
So
God.
Starling tries one last time to get information from Lecter as he's held in police custody in Tennessee. And he does offer her a final clue. We covet what we see every day. And he demands to hear her worst memory. This is when she reveals that after her father's death, she goes to live on the farm or the ranch. And one night, she is awoken by a scream, and the farmer is slaughtering the spring lambs. And she flees in terror with a horse named Hannah, who is also destined for the slaughterhouse. In the book, it's not a horse that she flees with. She actually tries to set the lambs free, and she actually runs away with the lamb.
In the movie or in the book?
In the movie, she
In
runs
the
away with
movie.
the lamb. In the
Yeah.
Right.
book, she runs away with the horse.
Yeah.
Right.
So the farmer catches her and sends her to an orphanage. And this is where she spent the rest of her childhood with the horse, with Hannah. And Hannah gets to cart around children, even though she's blind. In the movie, the lamb dies. They kill the lamb. So Lecter sees the parallels between the helpless lambs and the
Helpless
helpless
victims.
victims like Catherine.
Yep.
And then they share a brief moment where their
Where
hands touch.
Their
Oh,
fingers kind of
Clarice and
touch.
Hannibal.
So Chilton comes back. he's in the room and he's like, "No, you can't be here. You need
He's
to
like,
leave."
"Oh, hell no."
So before Clarice is escorted out of the room, Lecter goes to give her back the Buffalo Bill case file. And I think this is another big moment that they kind of changed between the book and the movie, at least the way I perceived it.
Right.
So when she goes to reach for the case file in the book, it sounds like she reaches for his finger and touches his finger. She's the one that initiates contact. And in the movie, it's Lecter who actually
Yeah.
initiates the contact, but she doesn't like pull away. She doesn't freak out, so I'll give him
Right.
that. But it just felt more like she was actually trying to make a connection with Lecter in the
Yeah.
book by initiating the contact.
Mhm.
I feel like this is when, to me, like as soon as Lecter gets to Tennessee, this is when this turns into a Sarah J. Maas book, and like the next, like from this point on, the whole world explodes and everything happens all at once, just
Yeah.
boom, 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 one
The
hit
last
after
100
another.
pages of the book.
Yep.
Yeah, like it
Mhm.
is intense, and I could not put it down. Like I was up in like just in true Crystal fashion. I waited until the last minute to finish this book.
I was like, last night.
Like,
Oh, so
and
I
I thought
finished
to
it.
myself, right? I thought, well, I'll read most of it tonight and I'll read some of it tomorrow and get caught up. No. I got to this point and I was up until after midnight. I could
Mhm.
not put in I don't do well if I don't sleep. So that's a big deal if I give that up. But I was like, we're gonna get through this. Because there was no good place to stop. It was
No.
just that good,
This
you
Mhm.
this
know?
is getting to the part where I mentioned it at the very beginning, where I was like, I felt like I figured it out before they actually explained it in the book, and I was like, oh, I know what it is. I know what happened. Which, I had seen the movie, so I knew.
Right.
But for some reason, reading the book, I was only picturing the characters from the movie, and I
Mhm.
wasn't actually picturing the storyline, and it was almost like I was reading it or seeing it for the first time. Like I had no
Mhm.
idea what was going to happen.
It's
Yeah.
such a good book. It's
It
such a
is very good, yeah. But shortly after this encounter, Lecter uses his makeshift lock pick and he escapes by
the
killing his
most
guards.
gruesome way ever.
Mhm.
This is the most like to me this is the most like chilling, horrific like yeah.
And
Y-
Anthony Hopkins' face
Yeah.
as he's beating this guard to death.
And the blood is splattering and he's just like kind of blank face just like, "Oh, it's another day." He's not like grimacing. He's not like,
Yep.
he's just like, "Oh." And the
Heart
music
rate
is
steady.
playing, heart rate
85.
steady, music's playing and he's just beating the daylights out of
Mm.
this prison guard.
Yep.
Like,
Like,
yeah.
my heart rate isn't that slow on a good day. Like, my heart rate's
My heart rate
112.
was my heart rate wasn't that slow reading this. I
Right.
was laying in bed reading this, and my heart rate was probably over 100. I was just like flipping the page, like, what happens next? Like, and I know, I've read it, I know what's going on, but it was just
Mhm.
that good.
Yeah.
So, yes, Lecter kills the guards and stages this elaborate escape plan.
Which was crazy.
So
So
good.
crazy.
Wild. That was so unexpected to me.
And because he had no idea he was gonna be in Tennessee 2 days ago or even yesterday. This is all new to him. So he came up with this plan on the fly.
Yeah, on the
Like,
Especially
fly.
after he saw the fact that the guard was the same size as him, and he was like, "Oh,
mhm.
I got it."
Are you
Yeah.
14? No, I'm kidding.
And then the fact that he had a pocket knife,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that helped.
Yeah.
So, yeah, spoiler, he cuts the guard's face off
And then wears it,
and then wears it
And where is it?
and
Buffalo Bill style.
Yeah.
took one right out of Buffalo Bill's playbook.
Yep.
Puts his
Billy
face
Rubin.
on and pretends to be this guard. So once he's attracted everyone else up to the 5th floor, they think he is the guard. I think it was
That
Pembry.
and they were like, "Oh, his face is mutilated
Mhm.
because Hannibal Lecter was in
Yeah.
here and got
And
Like,
his."
they think he's, like, injured on the ground.
Right.
and
They
he's
don't
like,
think
"Talk
this
to
is a
him, his
dude
name is
wearing another.
Pembry, talk to him."
Yeah. He's like, "He looks all messed up." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause he's wearing someone else's face,
And
but,
he's lying to him, "You look good, you look good."
"You look good, buddy, you're gonna be fine."
Yep. Take
And
him
it
on the ambulance.
Wrong.
Ambulance,
Like,
never seen again.
they take him out, and then while they're taking the guard out on the stretcher, the rest of the officers are in the elevator, and blood starts to drip from the top of the elevator, and they go to investigate, and they see the prisoner, they see Lecter laying on the top of the elevator, and in the movie, they shoot him once in the leg to get him to react. They don't really do that in the book. They investigated
right.
a little more thorough. But it turns out that the guard is dead on top of the elevator,
Yeah.
and they
What they
realize.
thought was Lecter is
But
not
it and
Lecter. It's
this
Yeah,
is, like,
actually the
the
guard.
yeah.
but again, this is just more brilliance because like, they don't even realize anything's wrong, that like, they think that this poor guard is in the ambulance being driven to the hospital to try and save his life, and this is Hannibal Lecter they have, and this just allows the real Hannibal, who is in the ambulance, that much more time
Mhm.
to get away.
Also, they mention this in the book, they don't mention it in the movie, but as the officers get to the 5th floor and they see the scene, and they're like, call the ambulance," and the ambulance shows up, and they're like, "Oh, they responded really quickly,
That was fast.
that was
Yeah.
interesting," and then they reveal later that Lecter had actually called them in advance before the officers got to the floor,
Mhm.
and he already had them inbound. So, yeah, their reaction time wasn't as quick as they expected, but it's because Lecter called in advance. He planned everything.
Mhm.
I loved that bit of information.
Insanity.
That was
Insanity.
yeah, that was well thought out.
Crazy like a fox, that one.
Mhm.
So, Crawford and Starling are blamed by the Attorney General's office for Lecter's escape,
Yep.
Right, because
and
'cause they're like, "She had to have given him something. She
mhm,
had to have,
Mhm.
like, they had to have planned something. She's visited him so much." Like,
mhm. Again,
of
they have
course
a
it's the woman's
relationship.
fault. Like,
Mhm.
gotta blame it on the woman. Okay, fine.
And then they threatened to expel her from Quantico, and then it just so happens that the same day, Bella Crawford passes away.
Yeah.
And despite the risk to her career, Starling continues to search for Buffalo Bill, and she comes to the conclusion that he had to have known his first victim, because his first victim was weighed down when she was put in the
Right.
river, and
He
none
took
of the other
way more
victims were.
precautions with that first one
Mhm,
than he did the rest.
mhm. And his first victim was Frederica Bimmel, I think it was,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Clarice visits her family home and checks out her room, discovers that she was an accomplished tailor, and then that's when they realize that
Ding.
Buffalo Bill was making skin suits based on a pattern that Frederica had sewn into a dress. So, yeah, he's making a suit for
I will
himself.
say there was another clue in the movie that was not in the book, or at least I don't remember it being in the book, where Hannibal Lecter says something along like, "It's simplicity. It's
Mhm.
simplicity." Well, Simplicity is a company that makes, patterns for, like, different dress
Boom.
patterns and shirt
Boom.
patterns and stuff, and he,
Oh
like
my
and when
gosh.
he says it, it doesn't quite make sense in his sentence, and
Mhm.
so it, like to me, I was like, "The dress pattern." Like,
Oh
so yeah,
my gosh. That's insane.
I think that one in the movie, I think that was the equivalent to him asking Clarice if she sews.
right,
Because when she's
Oh.
interviewing him, he says, "Do you sew?" Just out of nowhere, random. I'm like, "Well,
Mhm.
why are you asking that?"
right.
So Clarice goes to interview the first victim, Frederica's associates and friends and things like that. And she ends up at the home of one of well, I guess
Like,
she's
it's
not.
the lady that she used to help do alterations for.
Yeah,
Like,
I
this woman
couldn't.
did alterations for some of the local shops and stuff, and Frederica what like kind of was like her assistant and did some of the overflow work.
In the book, it almost sounded like the bottom of the house was a storefront,
Right.
and I wasn't sure if it was actually like a storefront or if it was a home,
Mhm.
but obviously Gum is living in this home. She goes in and is speaking with Gum, not knowing who
I
he
like how
is.
they did this in the movie, though.
It
Yes.
was
The
good.
way they did that in the movie, because you think that the way that they have it, they're filming both Crawford and Clarice at the same time, or they're filming what Gum is doing,
Mhm,
Right.
and, like, inside his house, and he hears, like, the doorbell ring, and Crawford is ringing the doorbell at a different location that he thinks Gum is
Right.
at.
'cause they have 2 addresses for him, and they're not
Yes.
sure which
Mhm.
one is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're,
So
like, seeing these in tandem,
yeah.
back and
Yeah,
forth.
so Gum goes to answer the door, and it's actually Clarice,
Mhm,
and Crawford is actually at the wrong location.
mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love how that was, like,
That
filmed."
was
That was,
super
like,
suspenseful.
perfect.
Yeah, they did it really well in the movie, and,
Yes.
like, it was good in the book, but it was really good in the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, that was so good. I loved it.
So, as Clarice is speaking to Gum, trying to figure out if there's any way she can get, like, previous business records or something from the previous
Yeah.
owner, she sees the death head moth fly. It's on his back, and it flies off of him. He sees it and notices that she's not looking at it. She won't even take a second to glance at it. That's when he knows he's been got.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, shit."
So
Mhm.
she asks to use his phone, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, it's in my pantry in the kitchen. Let me go get it." And then he runs in the basement,
Yeah.
and she chases him in the basement.
Now I will say, I love that in the book we get her thought process of,
Yeah.
like, "I don't wanna go down there. I know this is a trap.
Mhm.
I know this can't be good, but I also know that Catherine's probably down there."
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, because we all know we're s in the movie, we all scream, like, "Don't go down there, don't go down there."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like, hearing her kind of think through it, like, okay, she kinda has to,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So she only has her revolver. She doesn't have any protective gear or anything. She's really
And
not
no
prepared for
backup.
this. No
Nobody knows
backup.
she's going
Nope.
there.
She has the idea that, oh, they have 2 addresses. Hopefully, this is the other address because they should have already been there
Mhm.
45 minutes and they were gonna be there. So, yeah, she goes down there and, she has that brief interaction with Catherine,
Mhm.
which I didn't really like in the movie, just because she calls her what does Catherine call
Oh, she
Clarice?
calls her all kinds of names, like,
Does
"You
she call
Yeah.
her,
bitch,"
like, a
and
stupid bitch or
yeah,
something?
"You stupid bitch, get me outta here," or something
Yeah.
like that, like
She's
Yeah.
just screaming at her because I mean if you're, like, literally been, like, down there forever and this person's not immediately ASAP, like, getting you out of this well,
Right.
and you're, like, going insane, like, "Get me out of here right now.
Well, and
Like,
in
why aren't
the
you getting me
book,
out of there?" Yeah,
they,
she's
like
screaming at her in the book
Mhm.
too.
right, and they talk about in the book that, like, just before she gets captured that, like or gets kind of found before, Clarice gets there, she is pretty sure she's not gonna have the strength to
Yeah,
fight.
you're not.
She's weak. It's already been a few days. She hasn't hardly had anything to eat at all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
She's cold, she's got the
and
shivers, so
I'm
she's
sorry,
not
but
in her right mind.
I got this freaking psycho running around about to, like, kill
Right,
us
"Get me
both.
out of here, let's go."
They both
Yeah,
You
they
know?
both know at this point he has a gun.
yeah.
Right.
So, like, I gotta, like, have my if I'm Clarice, I gotta have my head on a swivel first,
Mhm.
I did
to
like
protect us
how
both.
in the book, Clarice is like, "Look, I can't get you out of here. Yes, there is, like, a hoist, there's, like, something that I can use to get you out, but I'm not gonna be strong enough, and I don't know that it's gonna be strong enough, so we're gonna wait until more people are here so we can
Yeah,
get you out safely."
Right.
'Cause she already broke her finger when he kicked her in there the first time or
yeah.
however he dropped her in there, I don't know.
Like,
Right.
in the movie when she's screaming, like, internally, I wanna be like, "Be quiet, like, shut up."
I
But
do love
also,
how
like, if
she's
I
like,
was in
"Shut up."
that situation, I would
Right.
probably be, like, freaking out.
And I do love that Clarice is, like, very matter of fact, like, "You have to be quiet, I have to listen.
Yeah.
Shut that dog up."
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, "Yes." That's pretty much how I would do it. I'd be
Yep.
like, "You need to shut up, shut the dog up, I got business to take care of."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
We gotta get out of here, so I gotta get it together, and then the lights go off.
And then the lights go off. Like, right after, so she finds her way into a bathroom down there, and there's a body in the bathtub.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was curious who that was, if that
'Cause
was
well,
the.
because they do half mention a few times that, like, he has other victims that are dead in some of these rooms in the basement because he liked to, like, play hide and seek basically with them. He liked to
Mhm,
hunt them
mhm,
Mhm.
in the basement with his night vision goggles.
mhm.
Oh, and in the movie, there's just, like, little skin suits, like, hanging around,
Just
by the
hanging
way.
around.
On the mannequins and
Yep,
Yep.
whatnot. Oh, and they were mannequins. Ugh.
lots of mannequins. That's
Yeah.
creepy enough, but now they're also wearing skin. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
ew.
So, lights go out. Clarice, like, goes into training mode. She knows where a gun is. She's trying to maneuver through the dark, and she hears the click of the revolver, and she turns and shoots, and she hits James Gum in the chest, which is where he shot his last victim, was in the chest. And I thought that was some. I felt like
Absolutely.
it could have been symbolic, but
I thought it was just wonderful.
It was
I
badass.
yeah.
in the book, it's still dark.
Mhm.
In the movie, like, a stray bullet breaks a window
Mhm.
or something, and suddenly, like, the whole room is flooded with light.
'Cause she shoots what, like,
Like, 4 or
6.
5 rounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, 6 rounds. He
Like,
shoots off, like, 1 or 2. She gets some gunpowder on her cheek.
right.
Mhm.
But, yeah, she happens to catch a window, and there's light
Lights
in
up
the
the
room.
room. Yep.
Whereas in the book, she's just listening in the dark, and she can hear some
It
raspy noise that she knows it's
right.
not her breathing, but she knows the sound, and it's James Gumb dying.
And
Yeah.
then she has to find her way out of the basement in the dark still,
Pitch black. Yeah.
pitch black, and so she's gotta find her way out to go find a way to turn the lights back on, but she ends up, like, going upstairs and finding a candle to bring back down,
Mhm.
I just
which
got the chills, like, thinking about, like, ugh, like, you're in the basement and you're, like, trying to, like, find your way around, like, touching little skin
in
suits
the
everywhere.
pitch black, you have
Ugh.
no idea what you're touching. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you just add the moths flying around your head.
Yeah.
Oh my
Mm-mm.
gosh, I hate moths. I don't like moths, and, like, they're just, like, fluttering by your ear.
Mhm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's like a haunted house right there. No, thank you.
But then,
So
like, we kinda, like, we don't, which is weird to me because this book is pretty detailed in a lot of ways, but, like, this part is just, like, she finds the candle, she comes back down and gets Catherine,
Yeah,
and
and
then everyone else arrives to kinda clean it all up.
yep.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
we just kinda, like, skip, which I guess what were they gonna say? Like,
yeah.
she sat
I
down
mean,
and
they
waited
had to
for
wrap
help
it
to
up.
arrive. Like, you know.
Yeah,
yeah.
true.
And then I still can't believe that despite doing all of this for the FBI, that she still has to do her tests to even
Mhm.
pass.
I know, can we pass the girl? Like, she just did
Pretty
all
much.
this
Like, that
stuff.
was some serious extra credit, my friends. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
let her go.
In the
just let
movie, she does graduate, like, immediately, like, she still has, like, the pink on her cheek where she's healing from the
Yep.
gunpowder, and they're like, "Congratulations, you're in the FBI." And then in the book, she's like, "Oh, I gotta go cram for this test on Monday."
Mhm.
yeah, like, her roommate is, like, helping her or
Mhm.
something.
Yep.
Yeah, that's miserable.
Yeah.
Like, I would be so upset if I just did all this stuff for the FBI, almost died, and I still
Mhm.
gotta go take a midterm. No thanks.
But then we
So
do hear from Hannibal again.
yes. So then we are back to Lecter. He is hiding in, I think, St. Louis is where
Mhm.
he is now.
In
Um,
the book. In the
yes,
movie, he just goes straight to
South America.
somewhere in
He's,
South
like, in a
America.
weird disguise.
Like, he's just wearing some, like, it's a leisure suit is what it really boils down to. He's wearing some sort of leisure suit, sitting in a cabana, watching people get off the, I don't know if it was a boat or a train, I don't remember, but, like, just watching people show up.
Yeah.
Creeper.
In the book, he's planning this trip to South America. He's been hiding out in it's like this resort for people who have plastic surgery.
A medical spa.
Yeah, it's and he's got the gauze and bandages on his face, which is normal because everyone does. And he's been
Right.
injecting himself with like
Some silicone and
yeah, to
yeah.
like alter his appearance so no
He's
one
been giving himself fillers.
exactly. Because they everybody knows who he is. He's
Exactly.
Hannibal the
Mhm.
Cannibal.
He's super famous.
Mhm.
So, like, but he was all like, I can hang out at this place because everybody's got bandages on their face, so I won't look out of place.
Right.
Really brilliant, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a good plan. But he writes several letters. He writes one to Barney, who is the orderly at the asylum, which I thought was really nice.
it was really sweet. It was really
Yeah.
sweet.
He wrote one to Chilton, promising that he's coming for him. And then he also writes one to Starling, and he says that he hopes the lambs have stopped screaming, and he has no plans of pursuing her. And he hopes that she will return the same courtesy.
Yep.
And
I
then
thought it was nice.
I thought it was nice too. See, in the movie, he just calls her and is
Thanks,
like,
Hannibal.
I'm in South America. Well, he doesn't say I'm in South America. He
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
tell
like, I'm
her.
not telling you where I am. I'm
I'm not,
visiting. I'm gonna have an old friend for dinner.
I
Like,
love that.
Yeah. I
ooh,
was like,
oh,
okay.
girl, like
Can
girl
we
dinner. Oh
not?
my god.
Not girl dinner.
Oh,
Girl dinner.
Girl
no.
dinner. Oh Lord.
Oh my god,
When
that's
we get sound
horrible.
effects in our podcast, when we get cool enough to have sound effects, we need the girl dinner sound. Like, we need that on our little.
Can you imagine, like, it's Hannibal the Cannibal going, girl dinner?
Oh my god. You would.
Oh man.
Can
I
you
don't
imagine Hannibal with TikTok? Like, oh Lord. Oh,
Oh
definitely glad this
my god.
book was written in the 80s. I don't know how we could have put social media in there at all.
Can you imagine Hannibal the Cannibal? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Oh my god.
he's got a cooking channel.
Oh my god. And once in a while he does some like mini episodes where he like dives into the psychology of something, of the
He's
most
like
of the
Gordon
most recent
Ramsay.
TikTok trend. He like, oh my god.
This is the wine you need to pair with this organ.
Oh my god. Hell's Kitchen.
Hell's Kitchen, Hannibal Lecter style.
Oof.
Okay.
Talk about kitchen nightmares.
Literally.
Literally.
Okay.
Oh, but that's basically the end. Well, at least in the movie. In the book, Clarice hooks up with one of the doctors from the Smithsonian.
Which was really cute.
It was cute. Good for her.
Mhm.
In the movie, he was kind of creepy. I didn't like him very much.
No, in the movie he was a little creepy, but in the book he did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And overall, it was a pretty spot on adaptation, so kudos.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought that,
It was good. I think it fell short in a couple of places that the book
yeah.
like did such a great job. The
Mhm.
movie kind of didn't quite. Like personally, I give the movie like a 3.5.
Okay.
It's definitely worth watching. Definitely worth watching.
So that's your
But
final verdict?
that's my final verdict. The book is just so freaking good. I
Mhm.
can't. I can't say enough good things about this one.
Keri, what's your final verdict?
I probably feel around the same about the book in the movie. Like, I have like my own personal issues with both that probably even it out.
Worth
I
reading.
Yeah,
Worth
totally worth.
watching.
Yeah, 100% for both. This was like a really fun experience reading and watching it for the very first time. I'm really happy that I got to do it with both of you guys.
Oh,
That was
This
super
is
fun.
it's such a good
But
Halloween book.
yeah,
Like,
Mhm.
100%. Honestly, actually not as scary as I thought it would be.
It is more
So,
psychological than it is like
yeah.
yes, much
horror.
more psychological, not so scary, definitely not like jump scary.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Maybe a little like nightmare fuel. kind of disgusting,
Yeah.
actually really disgusting, but I honestly enjoyed reading and watching it.
Well, good. Well, that brings us to our question of the episode. I'm really excited for this one. If you had to seek advice from a notorious villain to solve a mystery, who would it be and why? Keri, I want to hear yours. I'm excited.
Don't start with me. Do not start with me because mine's not that good.
Well, now
Okay.
you have to tell us.
Mine is not a notorious it's not a notorious, quote, "notorious villain." Okay? Oh, and also I have a disclaimer that I don't like I don't watch a lot of, like, superhero stuff. I have not Crystal, don't come for me. I have not
I
seen
think I know
a
what you're gonna
lot
say.
I haven't seen a lot of, like, sci-fi stuff, okay? And I don't know a ton of notorious villains. I'm just gonna say that. So mine so this is from what I watch a lot. My notorious villain that I want to help solve a mystery is Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wait, wait, wait.
Okay.
Isn't that actor? Oh, James Marsters. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
So,
he does the voice of for the audiobooks of one of my
he does
favorite
a
series, my
lot of
best friend's favorite. He's so good.
he
He's
does a
so
lot
good.
of he actually does a lot of the Shadowhunter series as well.
He's
But
an awesome human being too.
yes, he is an amazing human being, but he is a
He is
villain,
a villain,
technically a
technically.
villain in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, also a great sidekick to Buffy later on and helps her solve mysteries.
So there you
Okay?
go.
So,
I think it
there you
counts.
go.
I like
I
It
it.
legit thought you
counts.
were gonna say the bone carver,
I
so
know.
No, no, I wanted it to be more, like, obvious and more recognized.
okay,
So,
okay,
Okay.
okay.
yeah,
Crystal?
my man Spike.
Khan, like Noonien Singh, the Khan from like Khan from
God.
Star Trek. Yeah, like he's
Okay.
a super like Hannibal Lecter style, like super genius. So I feel like he could definitely give me some solid advice on how to catch other crazy psychos because he is indeed a crazy psycho himself. Although, just like Hannibal Lecter, I'd probably get trapped in whatever web he was going to spin for me, and I'd end up dead too. So
Fair.
worth it though.
Kind of like my villain. I went with the Master from Doctor Who,
Ooh.
so he can help me solve the mystery of a time paradox. Because it's something only a Time Lord could
Mhm.
understand.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yep.
Wow, mine sucked.
No,
I
yours is
liked
really good.
yours.
Imagine the 3 of them together.
Oh my gosh.
I almost went with Moriarty from Sherlock.
Yeah, that would be a good one too.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of really good villains out there.
And they're all crazy psycho and they gonna get you, so.
But they'll do
Don't
it in
work
a
with them.
smart way. Like, you'd end up notorious for being one of his victims. That's
Don't tell them anything personal.
don't tell them it. There's so many rules. You just follow the rules, you'll be fine.
Yep.
Well, all right. I think that about wraps up our Halloween special.
Mhm.
Woo!
Great way to end the spooky season. Don't forget to follow, rate, review, and download our podcast. And check us out on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And this is where you'll find our reading schedules, sneak peeks, and bonus material for each episode. Read along with us and send us your recommendations for adaptations we should cover. Our email is basedonabookpodcast@gmail.com. So thank you for joining us during our first spooky season. And as always,
Yay.
we hope to see you in the next chapter of Based on a Book. Ta!
Bye.